What's going on, everybody? Today we are talking with Sam Keats, the sole developer for Sanctum Breach, a hardcore action RPG that's in the indie scene, that's generating a lot of hype and building a strong community around it. So, Sam, how are things going in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it couldn't be better, really. Game's progressing great. I done a fundraiser for the latest combat patch, and that was pretty successful. So it's nice to have that support. But yeah, just taking along, getting the patches done.
Absolutely. And so, speaking of that, how have the patches and things like that been going with everything that's going on in the world right now with COVID-19, coronavirus, and all that?
Yeah. To be honest, it's business as usual for me, really. Not like I went out loads anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah, just on lockdown.
Gotcha. Well, good. So no, like hadn't impacted or
So
anything like that. Just been knocking it out.
we're yeah, we're in a different place, staying with family because we got stuck here during the lockdown. But we've got our own room, like there's plenty of space, so it's not too big of a deal really. Went and grabbed my computer, brought it back, sorted.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's really good. I know I talked to a couple of the developers and they're all kind of either going through their own difficulties or it's just business as usual for them. So it's good to see that,
Yeah.
the entire gaming industry, both, indie developers like yourself and AAA developers aren't too impacted by this.
No, I think it's an industry that it's not really reliant on being around people. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously for larger companies it's a problem because they have to figure out how to work remotely and still be able to communicate with each other and stuff like that. But we've got the tech to do it, so it's not it's not really an issue, is it?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. So, Sanctum Breach. A lot of stuff has changed since last time we talked. You want to kind of walk us through exactly like kind of the biggest thing to
Yeah.
change?
So I've got my patch notes up here because it all goes into one for me. So yeah, last time we spoke we was on patch 1.3. I'm just working on 1.7 now. So there's been three like major patches and then a bunch of like bug fixes and stuff in between.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I've improved the mini map, added like portals to the mini map, stuff like that, because people were getting a bit stuck on that. In 1.7, I've come up with a new way of rendering the mini map, so it won't just be the typical sort of like grey space and then black borders. I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually having like the actual environment is going to be on the mini map as well. Um, some people like it, some people don't care.
Yeah.
Some people don't look at the mini map at all. Yeah, it's there if you want it.
Yeah.
Added a bit more to endgame content. Loads of new stats in the game, over 60 new stats. A lot of them are just passive tree only at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be endgame stats, and you can only find them on endgame gear, so it'd be level 60 plus.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously not there yet. So,
So, what are some of those
um,
stats?
oh, so I've added a different ailment for every type of damage.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two now. So you have an offensive ailment and a defensive one.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, fire damage, you can burn enemies,
Mm-hmm.
so take fire damage over time, or you can melt them, so it reduces their movement, attack, and cast speed.
Mm-hmm.
Chaos, you can deal chaos damage over time, or delirium, where you confuse them and they attack each other. So I've added a bunch of stats revolving around that, like block chance, dodge chance, glancing blows, like just really widened the stat pool, so it's not just damage or health.
So, do those ailments both apply on fire damage? Like, so if you did fire, does it do both burn and melt at the same time?
You have to have a chance to create it on your skill or through stats. It's not like just because you got fire damage, you can burn and you can melt. A lot of the skill trees give chance to burn or the corresponding ailment for the damage type.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I say, the passive tree and in future, like unique set items and high end stats will revolve around the ailments a bit more.
Gotcha.
Um, yeah, so you start off sort of basic. I'm doing five fire damage, and then later on, 100 fire damage. You're now on fire. You're now melting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, a question then: do you think that ailment style builds are going to be the go-to builds for
Um, Not
pushing
necessarily the
endgame?
go-to. but I want them to be an option. Um, yeah, it's just about creating build variety. I think put it this way, it's never going to hurt you to have an ailment in your build.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if you're going really out of the way to grab it, then you're going to want to focus on them entirely, like with your uniques, your sets. Like there's a unique item already in the game, proliferation band,
Mm-hmm.
and it spreads status ailments around like all enemies. So
Mm-hmm.
you apply burn to one enemy, and then everyone in the radius gets it as well. So if you wanted to go full on ailment build, you can, but you don't have to. Um,
Good.
it
It's
can
good to
be a
hear.
little side thing.
Good.
Like if you're one shot and everything, why does it need to have
Yes,
damage over time?
exactly. Precisely. Awesome. Awesome. So, kind of continuing through those patch notes.
Yeah, that's only the first patch. There's
Yeah.
loads more.
So, what are some other key changes that have landed on
Yes,
Sanctum Breach?
so talked about it briefly. The passive trees.
Mm-hmm.
So offensive and defensive passive trees in at the moment. They've got about 170 nodes each, I think. But what I tried to do was focus more on keystones. So like these big sort of like build enabling nodes rather than
Mm-hmm.
the small little 5 health here, 10 iron skin there.
Mm-hmm.
So each tree has, I believe it's 24 keystones.
Gotcha.
Um,
Nice.
and they're split into clusters. So you have like 6 different clusters because it kind of loosely revolves around the damage types. Um, but that's kind of in the offensive tree. In the defensive tree, it's more sort of, yeah, it's got an overarching damage type, but it's a collection of nodes, a collection of stats, as opposed to just like fire damage, fire resistance, fire leech, whatever. It's kind of like you got glance and blow and dodge together, perhaps, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then utility is going to be even more far removed. So you really need to like read through and plan your build beforehand because there's no respecs either.
Yeah.
I hate respect. Yeah, but I think they've really sort of ramped it up in terms of being able to actually create builds now, because you can get a character with a bunch of on-hit effects. Like it's I took a lot of influence from the passive trees from Grim Dawn and their
Mm-hmm.
constellation, because I like Path of Exile's passive tree, but I think it's a bit much
Mm-hmm.
in its current state, and I feel like it doesn't actually offer the choice that people think it does. Because any high-end Path of Exile player will know that there's an optimum route for every build, and once you've discovered that, yeah, it's nice to have all these extra nodes, but they're kind of pointless.
Yeah.
So I just try and avoid that happening, and I think one of the ways to combat that is like going really heavy on the keystones and these build enabling options, because the difference between having different types of on-hit effects or life-saving effects, they're more playstyle dependent than straight up numbers are.
Mm-hmm.
Because like with the number game, there is going to be an optimum route, but with build choice, it's not always so cut and
Yeah.
dry.
It's more. Yeah. It's more. Playstyle driven, personality driven.
Yeah, yeah.
So, at what point? I mean, do you see an immediate effect or immediate boost when you first hit one of these keystones, or when you first get into
Yeah.
the tree?
Yeah. So you've got sort of these incremental boosts along the way because you need to unlock the clusters first. So you
Mm-hmm.
start off in the center and you have to work your way out. Um, so I think if you're rushing to a keystone, you can probably get your first one around, I don't know, level 15, 20.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but after that, they come more rapidly because once you're inside a cluster, you can jump to the next one a lot quicker. So you hit your first one at say 20, and then you hit your next one at 25, and you can keep going.
Mm-hmm.
There's 4 keystones per cluster, and they ramp up in power. So yeah, I think end of Act 2, you'll start to see your build coming together. But yeah, it's definitely improvement over the Divinity tree.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it because when I was out there playing with it, and I talked to you about this, ahead of time, and the thing that really kind of pulls me in is it looks, when you first open it up, it looks kind of jarring, right? You're like, whoa, there's a lot happening. But
Yeah.
it's laid out in a simple format where you can just read the nodes that you need and then just make your decisions. And you can just continue making those decisions and piecemeal it. And before you know it, you have this fantastic, kind of strung together thing of nodes, and it's really kind of working for your build. And that's something that I appreciate with it because, like you said, the old Divinity tree was overwhelming, and I feel like it was overall less impactful than this one is. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't really offer too much in terms of actual like power gain.
hmm
Um, yeah, I just wanted something that was like you got that wow factor when you
hmm
opened it up
like
because like
boom.
everyone, yeah, everyone loves that in ARPGs, don't they?
Yeah.
They're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
choices.
Yes, that's exactly what
um,
it is.
but yeah, but I wanted it to also remain sort of you could understand it without needing to go online and be like, what is the best route on the passive tree?
Exactly.
So yeah, you can work out yourself, but you've still got plenty of stuff to choose from. Um, Other stuff, bug fixes, lots of bug fixes. Um, yeah. Oh, another thing. This we talked about this in the last interview, and then I went away and done it. When you die, you have a nemesis, so the enemy that killed you steals your XP,
hmm
then gains a buff relative to the amount of XP that you've lost.
hmm
And this can be anyone, like axe bosses, level one wolf. If you die, they get stronger, and then if you kill them, you get your XP back. Um, yeah, because prior to that, it was sort of like if you died, you lost all your XP, and a
hmm
lot of people found that a bit unfair. So
Disheartening.
yeah, so now you have a chance to get it back. I mean, the enemy's going to be a lot stronger, but you can do it.
Hey,
I believe in
merciful developer.
you. Yeah. Relics and uniques, there's a way to upgrade them now as well. When you get to level 35, you unlock a soul infusion. So you gain souls throughout just by killing enemies, like you gain gold and souls.
hmm
Um, Gold you can use in like the AH and Goblin's Gift and stuff like that.
hmm
But souls, the only thing you could do with them was gamble for items.
Yep.
I mean, which is great.
Yeah.
Everyone loves gambling in ARPGs, but I wanted sort of more of a surefire use for them as well. So
hmm
you can spend your souls to upgrade them. They get stat upgrades, and it costs more as you go along. You can upgrade them 10 times.
To upgrade
And
gear.
uniques and relics drop based on your level now. So there's not like these different versions of them. It's just one version. Um, and say you kill, I don't know, Dragon at level 90, you get Dragon Heart Chest. You
hmm
kill him at level 100, you get Dragon Heart Chest again, but this one's going to be stronger
hmm
because it's a higher level. And then using the Soul Infusion system, you can boost it to level 110, which is obviously 10 levels
Yeah.
over the item cap, so they're going to be pretty good,
So can
I
you
think.
soul infusion anything or only relics?
Only relics and uniques.
Only relics and
Uh,
uniques.
yeah, legendaries and set items don't work at all.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I think people will have a combination of items anyway, because my sets are going to be sort of like two, three items max.
hmm
I'm not going to go for these big like six sets
Yeah.
because I don't think it's a very good system really.
It's not.
Um, so yeah, I think it'd be a combination of sets, uniques, and then like these crazy legendary items because for those that aren't aware, you can roll multiple of the same affix
hmm
in Sanctum Breach, so you can theoretically have an item that's three lots of crit chance and three lots of crit damage,
hmm
but good luck finding that.
Yeah, exactly.
But there are these like super chase items
That's
out
awesome.
there to get.
That's awesome. So, one of the big things that I know a lot of people were talking about and a lot of people were really excited about was the upgrade to the models, the animations, and stuff like that. So, can you kind of walk us through that process and how you kind of
Can I,
selected those? And
can I quickly jump back because that was patch
oh,
1.4,
of course, yeah,
patch 1.5, and then so 1.5 super quick.
yeah.
Hex Lords out, new skill trees. That's it, done.
Oh, well, let's talk. Hey, let's talk about those really
That's
quick
1.5.
because the skill
Yeah,
trees is the big thing too because those changed quite a bit.
yeah. So skill trees, I went on the Rob, took him from last epoch.
Yeah.
'Cause I think It's a great system.
Yeah.
Why not have it? They're a bit simpler than in Last Epoch. I went with four minor nodes, so it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
a plus, and then you've
Yes.
got mages at each corner, and then augments behind it. And to get to them, you've got two minor nodes in the way, so it's actually eight, not four. I don't know what I'm on about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 16 nodes in total. But the idea is that you can level your skills level 20 every time you level up. You get a point to spend. I think there's like 30 points in total because some nodes have more than 1 point to be allocated in them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but with these skill trees, I want them to start off quite simple in terms of you just get basic upgrades for the skill, so like more AoE, more damage, and then these major nodes they change the way the skill works, sometimes quite drastically. Like might convert the element to a different type,
Mm-hmm.
or add an effect, add a cooldown, but give more damage, that kind of thing. And then eventually, I want it to be so that when you reach milestones like level 10, level 15, level 20, you get the choice of another upgrade. And then the level 21 is going to be like this massive sort of this change to it. So like Fluid Strike, the
Yeah.
Spellblade starting skill. When you get that to level 20, the idea is that instead of just teleporting once and then doing whatever you do, it's going to chain teleport as long as you're holding it down and it's got a target, so it becomes uh, fluid.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and stuff like that. So I want it to be kind of like flashy, more effective. Like really show off that you've got this skill to max level.
It's true, and that's something I noticed when I was going through and playing on the Hex Lord. Um, I made just like this hardcore straight poison build, ranged, and um, there were so many elements that changed between being able to, hit a wider area, be able to apply dots quicker, be able. I mean, there was so much that kind of molded into it that you could really. I mean, we talked about it a lot. Make it your own from a playstyle perspective, and while the Hex Lord has under a certain percentage of health, you gain a melee bonus versus a range bonus, and you can kind of play that to your advantage. And if you want to only be ranged, typically you're going to stay back. You're not going to take too much damage. But if you can kill stuff quickly enough and have high enough resistances to things like the Vipers, then you'll be set and ready to rock. But that's something that I noticed as well, like right out of the gate, that I really liked.
Yeah, yeah. So I want each class to sort of have its own playstyle, and that's why they have the affinity passives. So, like you mentioned, the Hexlord one, if you're above 50%, you get extra poison on hit. If you're below 50%, you have a Chaos Explosion when you hit things. Obviously, it's a small radius, so it benefits from being in melee.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, yeah, Elementus Spellblade has their own as well. Like on kill, Spellblade releases these like tornadoes of different elements, and then the Elementalist has bonuses. Like if you've cast a fire skill, you get a bonus to lightning and cold, like vice versa. Um, so I wanted there to sort of be not so much class identity because I feel like you have that already within the skills because obviously they've got their own skill set,
Mm-hmm.
but more sort of playstyle enabling options. So if you really like that sort of like hybrid playstyle, then yeah, you can go Hexlord. If you like, I don't know, juggling your elements, you go
Yeah.
Elementalist, that kind of thing. But yeah, my biggest thing I think is giving people options. Um, I feel like ARPGs have kind of moved away from that in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not too much, but a bit more than they should have because I think the biggest factor in this, and I watched an interview with David Brevik, and he talks about this quite a lot, is the internet has kind of ruined ARPGs in a sense because people no longer make a character and think, oh, I'm going to make this my own, I'm going to do exactly what I want to do, and it doesn't matter if I'm the best as long as I can beat the game. Like my character's a success. People are always comparing themselves to other people now, and that brings home this sort of like optimum route. And if you're not playing the optimum character and the optimum route, then you're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I kind of wanted to move away from that. That's why I'm really sort of against adding multiplayer, um, because I feel like that is a big issue when it comes to this sort of you have to have the best build, you have to have the best route through the passive tree or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'll figure it out. Don't worry.
And maybe it's, there's another game that was made by an indie developer called Chronicon. And I can't remember if I talked about it in the last interview too. But one of the things that they did multiplayer wise, I don't know the background of it, but they just enabled Steam's like play anywhere. So you can play with friends basically like you're on your couch with them. And I don't know if that would be something that would be a little bit more enabling to just play what you want, like Gauntlet style, rather than like Path of Exile, where you have this massive player base that you can always party up with, and like you said, if you're not running the best thing in the world, then you're trash and get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for adding leaderboards, and it's something I'm going to do at some point. Because obviously, when I played ARPGs, that's what I like to do. I like to ladder race and stuff, and there are people that like to do that. But I don't mean in the sense of like a community thing. I mean more in the sense of development thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of developers nowadays they make ARPGs in the sense of like you have to play this build. If you're not playing this build, you're not going to beat the game. And I wanna stay away from that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm all for the competitive nature, and I think for multiplayer, I've already planned out what I'm going to do. And
Awesome.
have sort of like more of like an MMO kind of thing, where you'll only be able to party up for dungeons. So this will be a new endgame mode. You'll only be able to do it as a party, but you can have like public parties because obviously everyone's got friends.
Yeah.
And I don't want people missing out on content. But yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, it'd be like 4 or 5 player dungeons, and when you enter the dungeon, you'll be assigned a role. I don't know if it'll be automatic or if it'll be like party decisions yet. We'll see. But the idea is that you get this role. It'll be kind of like a holy base, so you have like tank, healer, DPS, and you'll get a bonus to your skills. So, say for example, you're a spellblade using fluid strike, shocking cross, present kick. That's your build, right? One of each element. I didn't even plan that; just happened. Yeah. So, and then you get assigned a healer role. So every time you use your skill, you'll release like a healing aura, or say for example, you use a cold skill, you'll get an aura that ticks around you every second, heals people in the radius. When you use a lightning skill, you'll cool down like a beam of healing. If people get inside it in time, they get healed. That kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And if you're playing a Warbringer and you get the tank role, every time you deal physical damage, you taunt. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of really brings together like co-op play, and it's not just a case of like who can clear the map the fastest, because that's what Path of Exile multiplayer is, isn't it?
Yeah.
You get an aura bot, you get a massive DPS, and they just wipe out the whole, like power siphon, wipe out the whole screen, everyone profit.
Yeah.
I like more of the MMO style of multiplayer.
And the thing I like about that too is you don't have to change up your build, right? You don't have to change up here's what I'm using, here's my rotation, here's this. Well, instead of being able to do all these abilities I've been using, these DPS style abilities, now I have to take all those off and I have to put taunting abilities on or tanking abilities. Instead of that, you're just building it in, and which I think would be awesome because it keeps people familiar, allows them to continue playing how they want to play, but they're also gaining the bonus of you have a responsibility. You need to continue dealing fizz damage, continue dealing this, or you have those choices between, do I use a fire spell or fire attack in order to do this hot, or do I use a water spell in order to put a shield or ward on people? So things like that.
I think obviously people are going to find a way to break it. Like they always do.
Obviously,
like people are going to find the best thing to do. I don't know what it's going to be, but people are going to find it. But I think for the average player, it enables them to just play the way they want to play, but still be able to get the content done. I think that's important. So.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for that sneak peek, man. Appreciate it.
Patch 1.6, the combat patch.
Oh yeah, the big one.
Yeah. So this is the one that I spoke about briefly, the fundraising one. So the idea for this was to replace all character models, weapons, animations, the lot really, because it was all just placeholder stuff. I don't, for people that don't know, when you're developing a game, there's a lot of places where you can get free assets, just to help you prototype and stuff like that. But they're not the best. I mean, they're all right, but if you want to really sort of like push your game graphically, which I do to some extent, I never want to sort of like optimize people out of the game though.
Yeah.
I looked at 4 and 8K
Mm-hmm.
materials last week, but I realized that it's going to kill off so many mid-end users because I have the same collection of materials that Vulkan do,
Mm-hmm.
the Quixel Mega Scans.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if you're aware, but the requirements to run Vulkan at like proper FPS is just so high. It's like really high end,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it looks great. But for my game, I kind of envision it more as a game, more of a game that people can take with them, because it's like play offline.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game you can take on your laptop and stuff, and obviously laptops aren't going to be able to like these 8K, these amazing
Oh
8K
yeah.
graphics. So yeah, I want to keep it more sort of like good graphics, but not over the top.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, anyway, I digress.
Yeah. We're not
So
going full crisis here. We're not.
the combat patch.
Yeah.
So the idea with this, like I say, was just to replace all the crappy content and get in some new stuff. But at the same time, I wanted to address how combat felt. So for me, I felt that it was boring. Not necessarily the skills, but the way they interacted with each other and how you moved as a character, how they felt to cast, the animations. I don't know if you picked up on this, but Hexlord was literally 2 animations.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you had a melee animation, you had a ranged animation, and that was it. But now every skill's got its own animation. I think it feels a lot better. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I done to sort of make combat feel more impactful was slow down the initial cast times.
Mm-hmm.
So like Meteor, for example, went to 1.7 seconds instead of 1 second. And there was a lot of that across the board, and most skills became slower.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this is okay to do because it's not a massive difference in terms of like it's not going to take you 10 seconds to kill an enemy. It's going to take you an extra, I don't know, 2 seconds maybe. It might be an additional cast or something like that. But in terms of how combat feels, it feels a lot more impactful. Like screen shake, there's more blood. There's like you can see what's actually happening. Like you've got a wind up and then you've got the damage.
Mm-hmm. It's a little more
And
visceral.
I think it just makes it feel a lot more impactful. Like some people might disagree with this, but Path of Exile it feels very like wet noodle. Like yeah, you're killing the whole screen, but
Yeah.
you've gone like that and they're dead.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's no animation, is there? Because it's so fast.
Yeah.
You've got like 0.1 second cast times. Like you can't actually see what's happening. You've just got this massive explosion of particles.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mind getting to that stage somewhat in Endgame, but I think something that kind of needs to be taken into account is that the game is only in the early stages in terms of not only development but combat as well.
Mm-hmm.
In an ARPG, you start off slow, you start off weak,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to this sort of like massive build where you're like killing the whole screen, like you're one-shotting bosses, stuff like that.
Synergies.
And yeah, exactly. And then you've got like these explosions of particles and stuff like that. But for me now, my end game content is level 35, so
Mm-hmm.
it's like that's not even the start of builds in Path of Exile or Grim Dawn.
Yeah.
It's just you're getting a few skills together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if people want to look at my end game content, it should be in comparison with Grim Dawn in sort of like Act 3, like Path of Exile in Act 5. You know that
Mm-hmm.
that sort of region, not end game versus end game.
Yep. That's a good point. Yeah, because that's the thing that I know either pulls a lot of people in to Path of Exile or drives a lot of people away in terms of, one button builds, right? I have like, a bunch of auras running. I click a button, the screen dies. I'm just zipping through things. That's the whole point. And I think you have a slower methodical pace and you're gonna pull in
Yeah.
people that are a little bit more. Um, they like those. They like that pace where in terms of it's strategic, it's tactical. You're trying to figure out different ways to approach things in early game, and it's a constant thought process rather than I'm just going to continue smashing this one thing all the way through. So kudos to you on making
Yeah.
that decision.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I want to start off Grim Dawn and end up Path of Exile.
Yeah,
Sort of. Yeah.
yeah.
Sort of. I think Grim Dawn has like amazing combat in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like how it feels. Like it feels very impactful. It looks very impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to really think about what you're doing. I'd say it's a much harder overall. Um, maybe not in terms of a first time player, but if you've been playing Path of Exile for a while and you know how to beat the game and you
Mm-hmm.
know how to beat the systems involved in the game,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes quite easy.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, whereas Grim Dawn, like you can know the game inside and out, but it's still a hard game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I want to start off with that slower sort of combat and then ramp up. I don't like Grim Dawn's Endgame. I feel
Yeah.
like it's too slow. I don't feel like there's enough content to do either.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of, I don't want to get to 0.1 second cast time build
Yeah.
like Path of Exile, but I think my sort of thing is you start off at 1.5 second cast time just as an average,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want to get it down to 0.5 second cast time in endgame. So you've got about 300% like speed up in terms of pure cast time. Obviously, you're going to have a lot more going on as well, all these on hit effects and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to still be able to see the animation. So yeah, fast to
So
combat, but not too fast.
a question for that then. Are you going to, from an in-game perspective, have something like your, you know, procedural dungeons, your maps, that style of play? You know, I think even Grim Dawn kind of went to that with their Shattered Realm end game, and I'm just kind of curious what your direction is for that as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, I don't mind the procedural generation for maps, but I think what I'm going to do is keep the map static, but keep
Mm-hmm.
combat procedural. I've already got this in the bosses
Mm-hmm.
in the game because every time they attack, they have a chance to swap to a different skill. So they've got their overall skill set,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not patterned combat. It's just sort of like they start off with one skill, and then from there it can go anywhere because
Mm-hmm.
they have a percentage chance to swap to a different skill. So I think it really keeps the player on their toes because you can't necessarily predict what's going to happen. You know what skills they have available to use, but you don't know in which order they're going to use them. So you really need to like keep your cooldowns ready. You need to keep your movement skills available. You need to really be on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that will offer more longevity than procedural generation for the zones because yeah, like this room's in a different place, there's rocks in a different place, but the actual content that you're doing day in day out is the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, it's something I noticed. I know when I was fighting some of the bosses, I'd anticipate, okay, they just did this, they're going to do this, and then they do something completely different. I'm like, oh, hold on, wait, and have to kind of take a step back.
Yeah, yeah. I want to make sure the bosses went like nicely telegraphed as well.
Mm-hmm.
I went through and the biggest one that I've changed is the dragon from boss encounters because that's sort of like the only true boss in the game at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's the super boss.
Yeah.
Um, so I made sure that like his attacks were very telegraphed. But if you do get hit by them, then
Sorry.
yeah, yeah,
It's hard times, and I'm guessing
yeah,
he can do burn damage and melt armor at the same time.
yeah, yeah. He'll mess you up. I added resistances to all the end game enemies as well.
Oh, good.
Actually have them as well, but not as much, just to sort of like introduce you to the system for people that aren't familiar. But this is straight from Diablo 2.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any other ARPGs do it. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's really cool to have sort of like yeah, I'm running this fire build. I'm destroying everything in the story game, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. You're all dead. Kneel before me. Um,
Yeah.
and
The
then you
Fire
get to
Lord.
Endgame, and yeah, and you realize that, oh, I'm facing a dragon. He's immune to fire damage. Shit.
Yeah, now what do I do?
Yeah. So I think having that, promoting that multiple element, sort of like multiple skill builds, is a good way to go. I think it helps prevent that sort of like one button build that we talked about in Path of Exile as well.
Hmm.
'Cause imagine you're playing Path of Exile and you realize that um, like half the enemies are immune to the skill that you've been working on. Like some people will probably find it frustrating, but I make sure that people know from the offset. Like I have the like the loading screen tips, and quite a few times I mention in there about like taking multiple elements because some enemies are immune.
Hmm.
So people should be prepared for it.
Yeah.
I've also in 1.7, this isn't out yet, but skills on your hotbar will gain some XP on kills as well. It's not just from use anymore.
Oh, good.
Obviously the skill that you're using will level up faster,
Yeah.
but if you do want to pop some extra skills on your bar just to level them up while you're going through the content, you can, because it was quite jarring to have to go back content and start leveling up your skills again,
Hmm.
because you're not strong enough to use a level 1 skill to kill the enemies that you're currently fighting with your level 5, 10, 15 skill.
Yeah.
So yeah, they gain sort of like some residual XP on kill.
Is it like 100% goes, like 100% of the XP is to the use skill, but then like 50% residual goes to the rest of the bar type of deal?
Yes. So the formula I'm using is that on hit,
Hmm.
the skill that you're using gains XP,
Hmm.
and then on kill, the other XPs on your bar gain XP.
Hmm.
So say for example you use fluid strike, you hit an enemy 3 times. Every time you hit him, you gain 5 XP.
Hmm.
Fluid strike, and then when you kill that enemy, the skills on your bar, including fluid strike, will gain 5 XP. So you gain 20 XP for fluid strike, 5 XP for everyone else.
Gotcha.
Obviously, if you're using like meteor and it
Hmm.
one shots enemies, then you've got 10 XP for meteor, 5 XP for everything else.
Hmm.
So it just depends on how many times you're hitting enemies.
Gotcha. So it'd be more beneficial to hit to kind of lengthen that battle process if you want to level up
Yeah,
skills.
like I've got target dummies in Doman Port, and I don't think many people realize this. They are out of the way, and you have
Yeah.
to go looking for them.
Yeah.
But you can hit these target dummies with your skills to level them up. You don't have to go fight enemies that can kill you.
Oh, cool.
Because I wanted hardcore players to have the option of leveling up skills without running the risk of dying because their skills are under leveled.
Hmm.
I mean, technically, you can hit that dummy till your skills level 20 and then go destroy everything.
Yeah.
If you want to play like that,
Yeah.
because I mean, I didn't see a problem with it because you're not going to die from killing level 1 enemies, are you? So you can go grind that level 1 zone and you can level up your skill to 20, but it's going to be slower. It's going to be boring. So
Yeah. I mean, why even play the game at that point? It's like,
yeah, so just give people the option to whack the dummy.
exactly. Perfect. Done. So, kind of going forward, what we talked about, how we kind of want Endgame to play out. Are you envisioning any other like big combat changes for the game?
Um, More just build progression at this point. So introducing stat items, making a lot more uniques, that kind of thing. I'm gonna have a class mastery system as well.
Hmm.
So when you get to level 30, you can branch off into 3 classes. Um, that it'll have like a visual change, and then it'll unlock a few like class only skills. Kind of like Last Epoch, probably a mix of Last Epoch and Ascensions from
Hmm.
Path of Exile.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, so like the Elementalists can choose to focus on fire, lightning, and then once you've chosen that mastery, you can't go back. So you have to take the skill, level it up. It'll have skill trees just like your regular skills do. Um, but these are going to be really like build defining skills. Um, Obviously, for the Elementalist and the Spellblade, it's gonna because they're gonna be element focused, so like fire, lightning, cold.
Hmm.
Um, It'll make the dual element system sort of like you have to really think about what kind of endgame content you want to do. Because say for example you take the fire mastery,
Mm-hmm.
then dragon is going to kind of be a no-go because
Yeah.
you're only going to have your sort of like basic skills to kill him with.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm fine with that. I want there to be loads of endgame content to do. So like 15 different bosses, 15 different arenas, 15 different conquests, that kind of thing. So there really is loads of different content you can do. So you're not forced to do content that isn't suitable for your build.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that I envision endgame working is that people have multiple builds for different things, and then you can share the loot between your characters.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really kind of want to enforce that with like design decisions as well.
Gotcha. And you'd say 2 masteries per class?
Three.
Three masteries.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. Can't wait to see those.
It's subject to change. But
Yeah, as always. As always. Tentative.
yeah. And there'll be a new endgame mode as well, but I think I'll probably introduce this in beta. So you'll be able to farm different floors, like in Endless Abyss. It'd be kind of like that. But instead of dropping gold and souls and all that kind of stuff, enemies will drop crafting essences and
Okay.
runes and stuff.
Nice.
And then from there, you'll be able to craft a base,
Mm-hmm.
and then add affixes of your choice to it. It'll follow the same rule set of like prefixes and suffixes, but you'll essentially be able to create any item you want. Same goes for uniques as well. Bosses will drop unique modifiers, and you can add these to items, so you can basically create your own uniques.
Nice. Okay. I like that. So
Yeah, really recommended. So
yeah. So based off of the weapon system in Sanctum Breach,
yeah.
popping back to those masteries, is each mastery going to bring like a different weapon to the table?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you pick your mastery, you'll be given a set item.
Oh, cool.
So you'll have your new set that the sort of the mastery revolves around. Obviously, you're going to outlevel the set at some point. You get a level 30, but it's sort of to give you an idea of the optimum way to play the mastery.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be able to find the set item later on in the game as well,
Mm-hmm.
given a freebie,
Okay, gotcha.
and part of that will be a weapon.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think I'm not 100% set on the way I do weapons at the moment. I like the idea that you can only get them because it makes it a lot easier for melee builds. You don't have to rely on that random drop for a good weapon. But at the same time, it's fun to find weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe weapons will drop later on in the game, but for now, I think crafting will be the way to go.
Yeah.
And then obviously sets as well.
Maybe it's recipes.
Yeah.
Different
Yeah,
recipes. I mean, if we want a crafting focused game on weapons, could be recipes.
Yeah, that could be a good way to go.
But
yeah, we'll see.
Yes.
One thing at a time.
So, one other thing too. What's the next class that we're gonna see? That's what I'm most excited for.
So there's 2 planned classes left that I want to get in before full release. So you've got Warden, which is more of a ranger, like bow and arrow, and animal companions, and then Demonologist, which is like pure summoner. I don't know. I think probably Warden because I've got Summoner AI in the game currently, and I've got that logic and it works. But I want to do more with it. I feel like a lot of summon-based classes in ARPGs are quite like you summon your minions and then they go do their thing, and you collect the loot. Last Epoch have gone a little bit more with it and given them like an active skill that you can use, but to be honest, when I played summon-based classes in that game, I didn't really feel like I had a lot of choice. So the idea that I have for Demonologist is that your affinity passive sort of like controls what summons you have. So say for example you summon 3 like zombies, if you summon fourth zombie, they combine to create this like abomination.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can have X amount of these like combinations out at once. So, say for example, you've got 10 base summon skills, and they each summon a different creature.
Mm-hmm.
If you have like two zombies and like a succubus, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes something else. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you have like three succubus and an abomination, it becomes something else. So there really is like you can end up with like crazy
Yeah.
things. And so um, obviously, I haven't worked it all out yet, but the idea was to have these base summons that evolve into something else, that evolve into something else, kind of like you're playing like demon Pokemon or something.
Yeah, it's like a mixologist. Like you're like
Yeah,
a bar ordering
exactly.
drinks, but it's it's like demons and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So I feel like that would add a lot to the class because there'll be rules obviously, like you can only have X amount out once, that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it really opened the class up to variation. So not every summoner you see is going to be the same. Like they'll have their own things, and you can create these on the fly as well. Like if one dies, you can summon another one. I think a big thing I'll do is make them a lot squishier than
Mm-hmm.
they seem to be in other ARPGs. So you do have to actively keep summoning.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a case of like I've got my army out, go clear the whole map. I'll wait here.
Yeah.
Like you will have to sort of like be on the ball, because like a dragon is going to wipe out your zombies. And you have to summon some more while trying to avoid his attacks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you can make them tankier through items and stuff like that, but the idea is that they never get to the point where they're unkillable,
Yeah.
which is what I've found in a lot of ARPs. You don't have to worry about these defense stats on your summons.
Yeah.
It's just pure offensive.
Gotcha. No, I think that's really cool. I like the mixing. That's something you don't see.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I just wanted it to be a bit more unique, have a bit more flavor to it. And in Discord, there's quite a few people that are really into summon
Mm-hmm.
builds and characters,
It's
so I'll
popular.
probably, yeah, I'll liaise with them, see what they think. Like really talk to people about it because I'm not really a big summoner player
Yeah.
myself, so I did want to get people's input on that. And then Warden is going to be a bit more simplistic. It'll revolve around like traps and like having wolves and bears, that kind of thing, and then obviously bow and arrow as well.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like a demon hunter
Yeah.
from Diablo 3.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
but
So,
yeah,
you know, something kind of curious. Like if we take like Last Epoch as example, and obviously the rogue isn't implemented yet, but one of the things that they want to do from a specialization standpoint is, one specialization is like the bow and arrow. Another one is like, the falconer, where it's mostly, your falcon pet doing things. And the last one is more like assassin, where it kind of drops the bow and arrow but moves more towards like close range combat. Are you kind of envisioning something similar for that?
yeah. I think my specializations will probably be companions. So like wolves and bears, sort of like the bow and arrow, and then traps. So you can have like a trapper from Path of Exile, sort of like the demon hunter from Diablo 3, and then some like hunter from World of Warcraft with your
Yeah.
pet. You know, um, yeah, I think that's probably the route I'll take it. Demonologist is probably going to be the hardest in terms of
Yeah.
finding fun class masteries because it's very much sort of like this is your class. There's not really a lot to go with it. Like it's a really flexible class in terms of like what you can actually do in set parameters, but in terms of like breaking beyond them might be a bit trickier. I think one of the things I'll probably do is have sort of like more of an active playstyle in terms of like you can curse your enemies,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You become kind of like a support to your minions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I'll probably just get like minion focused, so like your minions get a boost. But then for the third one, who knows? Open to suggestions.
Be cool to like be able to summon minions, and because like the first one you're talking about, like you're supporting your minions, and the other one your minions can support you, like you summon them, and potentially when they die, or maybe you can target sacrifice them, then they can kind of fuel your, whether it's
Yeah,
unholy
yeah, you
bolts or
could
whatever.
become a pure caster based on your minion strength. Yeah, I could do something like that.
Yeah,
That'd be
so
quite cool.
could be. But the one last thing before we wrap up is, for someone who had just saw your game, or they come across this video, how would you kind of explain Sanctum Breach to them and kind of the future going into it?
Yeah, so I think at its core, it's very much an old school ARPG. So most of my focus comes from Diablo 2, like the slower combat, more impactful decision making. So you can't really go back on what you've done. You have to sort of stick with it, slog through, um, and then learn from that and make a better character next time. Um, but at the same time, I really want to push endgame content. I feel like there's so much more that could be done with it that people aren't doing. Um, ARPGs in general, I feel like they revolve around character, which is fine, and I have that. Have it so that you can make this character with all your shiny on hit effects and your nice armor and stuff. But one of like I don't know if it's my biggest focus, but one of my major focuses is what you actually do with that character. Um, I don't like stories, so the
Mm-hmm.
story's going to be brief, like 2-3 hours tops.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get into endgame, I want there to be just so much choice. I want it to be structured, obviously, so you don't feel lost. But so I'm going to have 7 different endgame modes. So you can straight up fight bosses 1v1. You can target farm bosses for loot as well, because each boss has its own items that drop. Conquests, so they're like mini maps, and each map has a modifier on it, so like immune to certain damage types, extra damage, extra speed, that kind of thing. Arena, so different forms of arena, so fight 10 ways, 50, whatever. Different bosses, different enemies, different rewards, that kind of thing. Like environmental effects as well, so like fire pits. Um, Well, so we've got mythical trials. So this would be against sort of like a phoenix, a minotaur, kraken, and each map have its own theme and its own rules.
Mm-hmm.
So with the phoenix, it revives and you have to kill it again. It becomes stronger. The minotaur, you're in a maze and you ghost ones attacking you. If you kill them, the final form becomes weaker, but it drops less loot. So you have to make a choice. Do you run around with these crazy ghosts following you, or do you kill them? Um, yeah, that kind of thing. Endless Abyss, so you can summon AI like mercenaries to help you, and you fight through these different tile sets, killing mini bosses. Every 5 zones, you fight this. There'll be like leaderboards involved for that, so you can see how far your friend's gone, how far like the world record is, whatever. Um, Chaotic encounters, so you're 1v1, 1v2, 1v3 against bosses, and they can be any boss in the game. So you might fight 3 dragons, 3 demon lords, a combination of dragon, demon lord, kraken,
It's awesome.
and obviously, yeah, these just crazy fights. And then we've got the crafting mode that I talked about as well. So that like crafting dungeon, yeah, maybe crafting dungeon.
Yeah. Maybe.
Um,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so yeah, just lots of in-game content, and obviously these modes are going to have like 10, 15, 20, 30 different fights, and each fight will have different difficulties as well. So you start off at like tier 1, work your way up to tier 10 or whatever. So yeah, just shitloads of content.
I love it. I love it. That's one of the big things for me, man. Is I don't like the huge wind up of story. I just want to get through the story, and I want to get to the end game where I can start building out stuff and getting the good loot and powering through everything. So
Way I view story is a sort of like teaching experience. Like
tutorial.
you teach about different, yeah, you learn about different types of items. You learn that about passive trees, skills, different types of enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want it to be sort of an ARPG that someone could play for the very first time. They don't need to like be this ARPG expert. They can just pick it up and they can learn and they can play. But when you get to endgame, you're gonna die
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're doing by that stage.
Just the way it is.
So yeah,
That's
yeah, I do
awesome.
want it to be difficult. So
Awesome.
yeah, start easy, get hard.
Exactly. Well, awesome. Well, Sam, thank you very much for meeting with us today and walking through all the updates and everything. It sounds like the game is just trucking along despite everything going on in the world. So it's fantastic. And if anyone wants to join the Sanctum Breach Discord, anything like that, description's going to be, or the link's in the description below, as well as Steam page, all that stuff. So everything you need to know down there, feel free to check it out. And it's definitely worth your time.
Oh, just quickly say
Yeah.
before I forget, I'm working on a demo at the moment.
Oh, perfect.
Should be out in the next few weeks, so people will get a chance to try it before they buy it.
Fantastic.
So,
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Bye.